California farmers say the bigger issue is the state's man-made drought, and California's water crisis is coming at a cost.
Every time you bite into an almond, sip a glass of milk, or toss a salad, you're connected to California's agricultural empire, the Golden State, America's food factory. $39 billion flowing through farms, orchards, and processing plants every single year. More food production than entire countries. Almonds, dairy, tomatoes, lettuce, grapes. California feeds the nation. But right now, something devastating is happening. Orchards are being ripped out. Farmland is turning to dust. Jobs are vanishing. The water's gone, and nobody's talking about the collapse that's already begun. How did America's most vital food source slide toward total failure? The answer reveals a crisis that's about to hit your grocery bill hard. California's Central Valley, 500 miles of the most productive farmland on Earth, 85% of America's almonds, 95% of processed tomatoes, 1/3 of the nation's vegetables, 60% of the fruits and nuts. This isn't just farming, this is industrial-scale food production that dwarfs most states' entire economies. $39 billion annually, more than tech giants, more than entertainment empires. No other state comes close. Drive through Fresno County, and you'll see endless rows of almond trees, vast dairy operations, tomato fields stretching to the horizon. This is where America eats. But walk those same fields today, and you'll see something terrifying. Bare land where orchards once stood. Empty canals. Dust bowls where crops used to grow. The backbone of American agriculture is cracking, and the damage is accelerating faster than anyone predicted. It started over a century ago when visionary farmers saw opportunity in California's Mediterranean climate and rich soil. They built something extraordinary. Irrigation networks transformed desert into Eden. By the 1930s, California was already leading the nation. After World War II, industrial farming took over. Massive investments in water infrastructure. The Central Valley Project, the State Water Project, dams, aqueducts, pumping stations, engineering miracles that moved water hundreds of miles from mountain snowpack to thirsty farmland. Generations of families built empires on this foundation. Small farms grew into operations worth millions. Towns like Corcoran, Hanford, and Tulare became agricultural powerhouses. Jobs multiplied. Processing plants opened. Export markets exploded. California almonds fed China. California dairy supplied Asia. For decades, it seemed unstoppable. The water flowed, the crops grew, and America's food security was guaranteed. Then the water stopped coming. Here's what makes California agriculture different. It's not rain-fed farming like the Midwest. 75% of the state gets less than 20 inches of rain per year. Everything depends on irrigation. Snowpack in the Sierra Nevada mountains melts and fills reservoirs. Aqueducts carry it south. Without that system, nothing grows. But over the past 2 decades, something changed. Droughts became longer and more severe. Climate patterns shifted. Snowpack declined. Reservoirs dropped to record lows. Between 2012 and 2016, California faced the worst drought in 1,200 years. Tree ring data proved it. Satellite images showed reservoirs at 15% capacity. Lake Oroville, a massive source for farms, looked like a bathtub with the plug pulled. Farmers watched water allocations shrink from 100% to 50%, then to 20%, then to zero. No water at all for hundreds of thousands of acres. The crisis everyone feared had arrived, and it never really ended. Then came the regulations. Environmental protections for endangered fish species in the Sacramento-San Joaquin Delta. The Delta smelt, a tiny fish, became the center of massive water policy battles. Pumps that sent water south to farms were restricted or shut down entirely to protect ecosystems. Court rulings sided with environmentalists. Billions of gallons that once irrigated crops now flowed to the ocean to maintain habitat. Farmers were furious. They watched water they'd relied on for generations disappear overnight. Agricultural leaders called it government overreach. Environmentalists called it necessary conservation. The result? Less water for farms. Then came groundwater regulations. For decades, farmers drilled wells and pumped freely from underground aquifers. But overpumping caused land to sink subsidence, destroying infrastructure and depleting reserves. The Sustainable Groundwater Management Act of 2014 changed everything. New limits on pumping, mandatory cutbacks. Farmers who had always had backup wells suddenly faced restrictions. The math was brutal. Surface water down, groundwater restricted, no alternatives. Crops need water. Without it, they die. So farmers made impossible choices. Fallowed land leaving fields unplanted skyrocketed. In 2022 alone, over 750,000 acres sat empty. That's more than the entire state of Rhode Island. Permanent crops like almond orchards suffered most. Annual crops like tomatoes can be replanted when water returns. But almond trees take 5 years to mature and produce for 25 years. When there's no water, farmers tear them out. Satellite imagery shows the destruction. Vast orchards reduced to stumps and dust. Growers lost decades of investment overnight. The visual is haunting. Rows of dead trees bulldozed into piles, burned and buried. One farmer in Kern County pulled out 4,000 acres of almonds worth tens of millions. Gone. Another in Fresno County abandoned 2,000 acres of pistachios. The financial losses are staggering, but the food production loss is worse. Those nuts won't come back. That capacity is erased. Jobs disappeared next. Agricultural employment in California peaked at over 450,000 workers. Harvest seasons brought temporary surges. Entire communities depended on farm wages. But when fields go fallow, there's no work. Processing plants that cleaned, packaged, and shipped crops shut down or cut shifts. In Mendota, known as the cantaloupe capital, unemployment spiked above 20%. Families that worked harvests for generations found nothing. Small towns hollowed out. Schools lost funding. Local businesses closed. The Central Valley, already one of the poorest regions in California, sank deeper into poverty. These weren't just statistics, they were real people watching their livelihoods vanish. And the big farms? They survived better than small ones. Corporate operations could afford expensive water purchases on the open market, where prices hit over $2,000 per acre foot. Small farmers couldn't compete. They sold out or went bankrupt. Consolidation accelerated. The family farm era ended. Food production didn't disappear, it moved. Almond growers looked to Australia and Spain. Dairy operations were located to Texas and Idaho, where water was cheaper and regulations lighter. Mexico ramped up vegetable exports to fill gaps California left. Arizona and Nevada picked up some slack. But here's the problem. Moving production takes years. Infrastructure must be built. Expertise must relocate. And some crops simply can't grow elsewhere the way they do in California's perfect climate. The global food supply chain adjusted, but inefficiently. Costs rose. Transportation distances increased. Your grocery bill felt it. Almond prices jumped. Dairy costs climbed. Fresh produce became more expensive. A head of lettuce that once cost 99 cents now pushes $2. Inflation gets blamed, but the real cause is simple: less supply from California means higher prices everywhere. The ripple effect spread from farm to table, hitting every American household. Experts warned this was coming. Agricultural economists at UC Davis published studies showing California's water system couldn't sustain current farming levels. Hydrologists predicted continued drought conditions. Climate scientists warned snowpack would keep declining. But policy responses were slow and contradictory. Politicians promised solutions: more reservoirs, better efficiency, desalination plants, but projects stalled in bureaucracy and lawsuits. Years passed with little action. Meanwhile, farmers kept losing water. Some accused the state of prioritizing urban users over agriculture. Cities got their water, lawns stayed green, but farms dried up. The political battle became toxic. Rural areas felt abandoned. Urban voters didn't understand the stakes. The disconnect grew wider as the crisis deepened. The question nobody wants to answer: California sacrificing its agricultural future for other priorities? Environmental goals, urban growth, Political calculations. Something is being chosen over farming. $39 billion. America's food security, jobs for hundreds of thousands, all sliding toward collapse while officials issue statements and form committees. Satellite data doesn't lie. Fallowed land keeps expanding. Wells keep running dry. Farms keep closing. The damage is visible from space. This isn't a temporary setback. This is structural failure. Some believe California made a choice consciously or not, that agriculture is expendable, that the state can import food and focus on tech, entertainment, and services instead. But food doesn't work that way. You can't replace decades of infrastructure and expertise overnight. Once it's gone, it's gone. So what happens next? How long can California's agricultural heartland survive before total collapse? The orchards are already dying. The question is whether anyone will act before America's food factory shuts down completely. Because when your food prices keep climbing and shortages hit shelves, remember it started here, in California's dried up fields, where the water stopped flowing and nobody did enough to save it.